I was dreaming, Rem. Everything was so horribly dry. There on that planet. Even people's hearts.
Present day. Present time.
Let's start off with her passive here. Shoot dual-wielded sidearms 15% faster and reload at single-handed sidearms 25% more rapidly. Gain 50 bonus health when not using melee weapons. So this passive is pretty neat, but it doesn't come in handy too often unless you want to specifically spec into it. The first ability here is Ballistic Battle Cry. When activated, this power stores damage caused by guns. When triggered again, that damage is channeled to the next gunshot. This ability is alright. We end up not using it as often, but it's definitely good. This one here is a lot more used. That's R2. Shooting Gallery. Gives an ally extra damage while jamming the guns of nearby enemies. This power shifts between teams members. Yeah, so this is pretty good because it helps you and your team. And this build isn't spec'd into it. Just the radius as it is pretty decent already, 16 meters. It gives you enough coverage for yourself in the whole room. And it should help out your teammates as well. Definitely very, very good for crowd control and damage mitigation. This one here is our bread and butter. We want to have this up as often as possible. It's Shatter Shield. Our ability 3 envelops MESA in a barrier of energy, reflecting back incoming bullet damage. So this gives us a protective layer of damage against all projectiles. Keep in mind, this works only really for projectiles. So when facing against the infested, which have a lot more melee based, you don't really benefit from using Shatter Shield. If this is the bread, this is the butter over here, Peacemaker. We really like Peacemaker. MESA is pretty much meant to be played with Peacemaker in mind. Some builds spec only into Peacemaker, into the 4, but I like to keep it balanced here for this basic build and even the standard. With intense focus, MESA draws her regulator pistols, shooting down her foes in rapid succession. Well, what's important to keep in mind about this one is strength. You want strength to increase that damage multiplier. You want to also have a balance between duration and efficiency so that you can keep up the ability as long as you want. For this basic build, we can put anything into the aura slot here. For the standard, we do like pistol lamp. We even forward here, but anything works. Anything works really, whatever you have. We put in some efficiency with streamline. We also help our energy efficiency, or actually our burn rate, with flow. We get a lot more energy. Here we go, some duration mods and continuity and augur message. For strength, we keep it simple here, intensify and augur secrets. Vitality for some extra survivability. With this basic build, you see that you have plenty of burn rate for the Peacemaker. Drain is 17.5, 6.82 energy per second, and we do have plenty of energy, 300, so we can keep it up pretty long. At strength 159, that's alright because that gives us what we need for 3 damage reduction, 95%. Duration is pretty solid with just these 2 mods, about 40 seconds. And that damage multiplier for our 4 is 2.31, which is pretty great. We'll go over those regulator builds a little bit later. Shooting Gallery. again, not as important as Shatter Shield, but still fairly important. With this basic build, we have a solid duration, almost 50 seconds, and like we mentioned before, it covers the whole room with 16 meters, should be solid. Drain is pretty cheap to cast, it's only 35 energy. And then with the basic build, you have our one, again not used very much. It's you could look into it if you want, but it gives us some pretty decent stats here. The standard build is a little bit more spec'd into strength, more duration, and even efficiency is a little bit better, but we do lose plenty of range, which is alright. Primarily it affects our shooting gallery. See, our radius isn't very big, so enemies aren't going to be jamming unless they're pretty close by, which is a drawback to the build, but it still runs just fine. Our Shatter Shield is still solid. We have the maximum damage reduction, 95%, about 50 seconds. Radius is pretty small, it's alright. We do just fine, as you can see from the gameplay. And then our one is the biggest difference. We actually don't like ballistic battery very much, and like we mentioned, Shatter Shield doesn't work on anything that's not a projectile, so we compensate with some Nourish. That's Grendel's ability from the Helmuth. Altered, self-heal removed, and effect reduced. Yeah, it sucks that we don't get self-heal, but still works out fine. Enemies that attack or are attacked suffer viral damage up to 1 stack. That means that if enemy attacks us using our 4, they should be dead pretty quick, because viral does increase damage from the other abilities. So they suffer viral damage, and then we'll keep reading up to 1 stack, and energy sources provide more energy. That's actually what helps us keep our other abilities up all the time. These buffs extend to squad members. We have a 2.68 damage multiplier for our 4. In this standard build, we really do want MESA's Waltz. So even over here, whenever you can, go ahead and add MESA's Waltz as quickly as you can to the build. Out here, we have it. Our speed is 35%, it's fine. We choose to run the pistol lamp, which gives our pistols more damage. Again, MESA's built to use our 4. We still get to use our other weapons, primary, secondary, melee, to good effect, but really it's our 4 that we're spec'd into here. Oh, some people might not know why we run a low unleveled MESA's Waltz, and that's because it allows us to move. See, without MESA's Waltz, our 4 means we don't move, just as you can see right there. With MESA's Waltz, we can move around and prevent us from recasting our 4 over and over again. We could just stay in it. Plus, we don't need it to be leveled up. That extra speed doesn't really matter too much. If we really wanted to, we could use some sort of ability that speeds up our whole movement, and it fixes that problem. For our standard, we have arcane velocity. Mine's not all the way maxed out, but we will max it out pretty soon. On critical hit, 90% chance for 120% fire rate to pistols for 9 seconds. Pretty good. Pretty good with MESA. Again, we're all about pistols, all about our 4, all about our regulators. The other one we choose to run is augmented on kill. We get some ability strength. The longer that we play, the longer that we are in a mission, say for defense missions, we actually do more damage to the enemy. Pretty sweet. With this particular mod, we'll gain 60 more strength at max stacks, which means we'll have a higher multiplier here for our damage multiplier. Will be around 3. For MESA's regulators, will cover a basic build and a standard build. Here the basic build covers gets MESA up to, or the regulars up to 55% critical chance, 3 times damage multiplier for the critical damage, and pretty decent 28% status with the status spread of 11.4 for heat and 9.1 for viral, which seems very low, but we do have multi-shot to about 3, and we have a humongous fire rate, which is deceptively low here, 9.1 and 11.4, but in actual practice it means you'll be spreading a lot of heat and viral. So here's the build: barrel diffusion, lethal torrent. We also have some more critical chance here with pistol gambit, and then we add some status with scorch 60/60 and frostbite, another 60/60 mod, and then a third 60/60 mod with pistol pestilence. We turn the whole thing into a viral build and throw on heated charge, which does get upgraded here on the standard build. Heated charge, prime heated charge. We choose to keep hornet strike, of course, it's a standard. We add galvanized diffusion, keep lethal torrent. We use a different way to increase our critical chance and critical damage. We lean heavily into our critical chance and critical damage. We also rely on the high fire rate and rely on high multi-shot to spread that critical chance and critical damage. Again, it's deceptively low here, 6.2% heat. Seems like it's not a lot, but in practice you end up spreading heat very often. Almost every single time you press the trigger, you actually spread heat damage, so that's pretty good. It relies heavily on the fire rate. So we do have lethal torrent, and we have anemic agility for the increased fire rate. This is a critical damage, critical chance build as opposed to a more balanced status. So we have prime target cracker for the increased 110% critical damage, and prime pistol gambit 187 critical chance. Actually, for the Exilus you can run whatever you like. I like running Hawkeye, and for the arcane I highly recommend you try secondary enervate. On hit, increase critical chance by 10%, reset after 6 big critical hits. This is a critical build. You'll be doing huge amounts of damage, very high critical damage multiplier and critical chance, especially considering the fire rate and multi-shot. I do recommend 2 schools, Xeneric, particularly for the Wellspring. See, MESA does burn a lot of energy sometimes, so you want to keep Wellspring in mind whenever you're playing MESA. First ability creates a well of energy for 8 seconds, and then another school that you might want to try out for yourself is Unaru. See, we'll get some armor as a passive. Our first ability means that we'll strip shields of enemies that enter it, which is pretty good. And then our second ability here launches an energy bomb that explodes with 8 meters radius, stripping 100% of energy armor. which is great. You could tap 2 again and detonate in flight, allows you to precisely control where to hit the enemy, and that gives you a pretty good way to deal with shields and armor. I choose to run Zenric, and that was the gear guide for MESA. Tune in next time for additional tips, tricks, and builds for your favorite weapons and gear.